Hello, and thank you for joining me. My name is Tim Elinski. I'm the mayor of Cottonwood, and you are watching Inside Cottonwood. Back by popular demand, we have Mr. Fred Piper in with us today. He was actually one of the second one that I interviewed on this program, and now you're back again. And Mr. Fred Piper is born and raised here in the Verde Valley. What year were you born, Mr. Piper?
July 24th, 1925 in Oak Creek Canyon.
Oak Creek Canyon, very good. And when we had you on the program before, we talked really about your childhood in Oak Creek Canyon and growing up here in the Verde Valley. And we sort of left off right before you joined the service, in fact.
That's right.
So I was kind of hoping to pick up the thread where we left off and have you talk a little bit about that today.
We can do that.
Great. And let me just say, it's really a pleasure to have you back on.
Thank you.
It's a very popular program, and I think people are itching for more, so here we are. So what year was it, Fred, when you joined the service?
1943. Turned 18 in July of 43. And naturally, all young bucks had to register for the draft.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I registered for the draft, as everybody else in Sedona did.
Mm-hmm.
And at this time, I was working cattle for Earl Van Daren in the Munns Park, Newman Park area.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And I got a letter, and my dad brought the letter up to me. Now, you understand, there was no roads up there, just very few damn dirt trails, is about it. Okay. Up to Newman Park, and said, it's time to report. So Earl Van Daren and I got in this little old pickup, and the Flagstaff we went. Mm-hmm. I went in and applied for a deferment, a 30-day deferment to get the cattle shipped.
Yeah.
So, 30 days, I went back to see if my deferment went through. That's all the contacts I had.
Mm-hmm.
So, apparently it did, because I'm still here. And from there, we got the cattle shipped that year and off to the war.
Yeah. And you were 18 years old?
18 years old.
And what branch of the military did you join?
That's another story.
Okay.
Shipped out to Fort MacArthur, California, debarkation. Went through their training stations mm-hmm. to see what they wanted you to do. Mm-hmm. And at that time, in the fall of 1943, they were losing lots of men and airplanes. The air war in Europe was pretty much at a standstill. We weren't gaining on it. And I went in and for classification, and they said, you're fit for the Air Force, mm-hmm. Army Air Corps. I said, I don't want it. I don't know what the hell I was thinking of. Uh-huh. But anyway, I came back out, and Charge Corps said, did you take it? And I said, take what? He said, you was offered the Air Corps. Well, I said, hell, that's what I like to have. So back in I went, changed my mind, shipped out to Buckley Field, Colorado.
Okay.
Hit Buckley Field, Colorado, Christmas Day of 1943. Wind, the snow, and the blowing and raising hell, it was miserable. About that time, I could just about told the Army they could have it. Well, that couldn't be. Yeah. So, Buckley Field, Colorado, training station, basic training. Everybody got it. Got myself in a little trouble. Went out on what they call bivouac. Go out, pitch your tents out in a snowbank and stand guard and freeze to death and all of that. Put me out on guard duty and give me an area to watch mm-hmm. at night. Beautiful moonlight night, snow. And nobody sneaks up on my backside to start with. I see a shadow come across the snow. And just as the sergeant of the guard, corporal of the guard, reached for my rifle to jerk it out of my hands, he got it. Full bore.
What did you do?
I laid him down.
Yeah.
I said, nobody snooked up on my backside. Called for the corporal of the guard. Hell, he was the corporal of the guard. So we called the sergeant of the guard, and the sergeant of the guard was not very happy rolling out a nice warm bunk to come out there and see what the trouble was. Well, anyway, I got pulled up, charged with hitting a non-commissioned officer, and went before the colonel, captain, anyway, commanding officer, and he said, "You're charged here with hitting a non-commissioned officer." I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "Explain yourself." I explained it to him. And at that time, the man doing bring up the charges, he had to be there. And he looked at the corporal. He said, "Is that right?" He said, "Well, yes, it's all part of training." We got a new corporal of the guard. So it was one of my things that came by that didn't expect it, but at that, as I said, that moonlight night, and that shadow falling across you, it's
Sure.
you do what you do best.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, out of Buckley Field, Colorado to Las Vegas, Nevada, first class of career gunners to go through the training station. Finished up there, and that's when I got my wings. Finished that. Passed good flying colors, then to advanced gunnery in Tampa, Florida. Trained out there and crewed up.
So, Mr. Piper, would you just explain what the training entailed? What was involved in training in Las Vegas and in Tampa?
Gunnery training. You take your 50 caliber machine guns and tear them down and put them back together blindfolded and shoot at the tow target. In other words, the same kind of training you would have to put up with if you was in battle, to train you for that.
Right.
And a lot of flight training, but the main thing, you took care of your weapons, and you learned to be a soldier. You learned to be a flyer. And then, like I said, then advanced training, that's primary training. Advanced training, we went to Tampa, Florida. Went to Drew Field, as a matter of fact. And that was where we crewed up, and with a crew, and then we flew and flew and flew hard. We trained hard. But I took it all in stride. I took it serious. Because I'd been told that that's the difference between life and death. And it was. But I did. I had a good crew. And then from there, after that phase of training, we went up to Savannah, Georgia, picked up a new plane to head for overseas, left Hunter Field in Savannah, Georgia. The first stop was Bangor, Maine, then Newfoundland, Iceland, and Valley Wales, England. And you know, that's the last I've seen of that new shiny B-17. Then from there, I was assigned to the 305th Bomb Group. Veteran Bomb Group.
305th Bomb Group?
305th Bomb Group.
Okay, very good.
They were a veteran.
Okay.
And started out flying.
And you were in England at this time?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Oh,
I hate to interrupt you, but we got to take a real quick break, and then we'll get back to that.
Thank you.
All right, so just a real quick break here. Again, you're watching Inside Cottonwood, and I'm Mayor Tim Elinski. Thank you. Papa!
This was me. And Mom and Dad. And my big brother Alex. And Jack. This was the day that I learned that sandals get their name from sand. And that the ocean is bigger than all of us. This was the day we all got to forget that I was sick. This was my wish.
Welcome back to Inside Cottonwood. I am Mayor Tim Elinski, and sitting with me today is Mr. Fred Piper, and I'm very, very glad to have Mr. Piper back on the program, back by popular demand, as we said. Tell us a little bit about his experience in the service, in the Air Corps, in fact. And we just sort of left off right before the break there when you landed in England after your training.
Landed in England, and like I said, we were my crew was assigned to the 305th Bomb Group. They were a veteran bomb group, and it was a sad situation. We went over with a 10-man crew. That was 2 waist gunners, and when we got there, they decided that 1 waist gunner was enough because we got the escort, so much escort then that 1 waist gunner could handle it. Mm-hmm. So our spare waist gunner checked out as a togglier. That is the guy that takes the place of the bombardier. The only thing he doesn't have is a bomb sight.
Okay.
The plane lead plane drops his bombs using the bomb sight, and the togglier just trips his bombs on the lead plane's bomb sight.
I see.
And at that time, there's always a smoke bomb that when you get level with that smoke bomb, that's where you trim it. Mm. Well, came back into England on our 5th mission to Hanover. The fog was so heavy and thick you cut it with a knife. Everybody trying to find a hole in the fog to get to their base. And the crew that my waist gunner was flying with, it was 2 B-17 tried to park in the same place 300 feet off the ground.
Not enough
They didn't
room.
make it. Mm. That was our first loss.
Mm. How many crew members were lost?
Me.
How do you mean?
The crew, he was flying with another crew.
Yeah.
Not our crew.
Right. But in that accident, how many were lost?
You don't put 2 B-17s together at 300 feet off the ground at 150 miles an hour, and anybody lives to tell it. It don't happen.
Right.
That was our first loss.
Right.
And from there, as it was said, better them than me. Mm. Well, we went on to fly a number of missions. Some of them were rough, some of them were not so rough. But in the start, we didn't know what rough was. Until November the 30th of 1944. We went to a target at Merseburg. It was oil. 180,000 flak guns at Merseburg.
The target was oil, you said?
They're oil plants,
yeah.
Synthetic oil.
Okay.
They were proud of their oil. We pulled on at the target with 36 planes. 6 of us came home.
Wow.
What happened is that the rule of thumb was you do not bomb Merseburg visual. You bomb through the clouds. Mm. Well, the cloud level was such we couldn't get above the clouds. The lead pilot decided to go under the clouds. Well, he's not one that came back. Mm. That is when that's when war really set in. Mm-hmm. So, December the 5th, we were pulled out, and they were trying to put enough crews together to put up a mission. Mm-hmm. They had put me with a green crew to fly in a plane I had been flying in, because one reason it had a camera in it, and I was checked out as an aerial photographer.
Okay.
Well, my whole crew was also flying in a spare situation. If they were needed, they flew. Mm-hmm. Well, Charge of Quarters came by and said, Sergeant Piper, your whole crew's flying over in the Hedgehopper. Would you rather fly with them? I said, well, hell yes. So I picked up my gear, went over to my plane that my whole crew was in. The plane I was to be in that day was shot down over the Zuyder Z.
Oh, wow.
And I was looking right straight at it when it happened. And again, better them than me. Mm-hmm. That's the way you had to look at it. Yeah. It was war. And one thing that I'll go back to and remember, in training, we had a lot of homesick boys in there. I said boys, I was only 19.
Yeah.
18 at the time. So, homesick.
Mm-hmm.
And the old instructor says, hey, forget about home, because most of you are not going to come back to it anyway.
Wow.
That was his words.
Mm-hmm.
And that thought stuck in my mind a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, I went ahead and I have some missions that well, one of them, for example, it was an experimental deal to take 2 bombs to Hamburg, rocket-powered bombs.
Okay.
They're what we call the Disney bombs.
Called them Disney?
Disney bombs, something like Walt Disney would come up with. That's where they got their name. They weigh 4,500 pounds apiece, 14.5 foot long, and hung one under each side of the wing, 2 of them.
4,000?
4,500 pounds apiece.
Wow.
That's a little overload for a B-17. And if you're sitting there looking at the tail ends of them bombs in that ball turret, you're looking at them, and note, them bombs are armed. One burst of flak and everything goes to hell,
Mm-hmm.
you included.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we did. We took them to Hamburg. They were rocket-powered. When they tipped down, the rockets were supposed to drive them down through those concrete bunkers and bust them up on a delayed action fuse. Well, one of the bombs ignited, the other one didn't. Just free fell. And as far as I know, that was the only time that was ever tried. And I will say that I wear a Distinguished Flying Cross for my participation in that piece of experimental work.
Interesting.
And also, well, I've got a few others. But anyway, I also bombed Berlin on February the 3rd of 1945, which I have the pictures of. And kind of hard to keep track of them all this time, but I've got them.
You've got photos that you took while,
Yes.
while in the plane?
Yes.
From, okay.
K-20s.
Yeah. So describe that mission of bombing Berlin. You said it was 1945?
Yeah, February the 3rd of 1945.
Were you with the same crew? Did you always have the same crew?
No, no.
Different crew?
My crew, my pilot, was better than average pilot.
Mm-hmm.
And he had a way of working his way in to the top echelon, as we called it.
Mm-hmm.
And he got into the flying lead, and when they flew lead, they had what they call pathfinding frequency in where the ball turret would be. Mm-hmm. That was on the lead plane. That was hunting your way to the target and back. Okay. And he flew a lot of that, and I got to where that I flew with just about, well, when they needed a ball gunner, I went. Mm-hmm. And I did not fly very many missions with my crew, up after probably 10, 12, if you got that far.
Yeah. Okay.
And, well, like I said, I was just all over the sky.
Sure.
Flew where I was needed.
Sure. We're going to take a real quick break again, Mr. Piper, then we'll get back and talk a little bit more about that. So again, this is Inside Cottonwood. Please join us again. We're going to just take a quick break and get back to speaking with Mr. Fred Piper. Thank you.
So you're looking online now? Yeah, great condition. I hate to see her go, but I really just need the cash. Well, the price is still just $1,000, but you have to send the money now, right now. Well, that's why the price is so low. Like I said, I need cash fast. I can't wait on a check or money order. You have to send cash now.
The moment they ask for immediate cash is the moment you know something's wrong. Think before you send money. Learn more at scamawareness.org.
Thanks for joining us again. This is Tim Elinski, Mayor of Cottonwood, and you are watching Inside Cottonwood. Today we are interviewing Mr. Fred Piper. This is the last little 10-minute segment of our conversation. He's speaking about his time in the service during World War II, and we just left off where he was describing some of his crew members.
Well, I did. I've seen a lot of them go, lots of them. Of course, that was the name of the game. That was war. And our co-pilot was a fine man, a good pilot, and he got assigned his own plane. And on his first mission, after being assigned his own plane, his own crew, he got shot up over Cologne, shot up bad, bailed out, and his chute didn't open. That was our second man that we lost. And then kind of got separated all over the country, and nobody knew where any of us had went to. I came home one day, and there was a letter from my old pilot. He was down in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. And he'd run through my name in the roster and bothered to write and let me know that he was still around. This is 20, 30 years.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, I got in touch with him, and my waist gunner that dug me out of my turret when I got shot up, I run into him up in, as they said, the wilds of Utah. The 305th Bomb Group held a reunion in Salt Lake City, and I didn't get to go because I had a little chest surgery at the time. And the wife and I took off for a little tour after that, and dang if we didn't run into the post tour of the reunion up at Navajo Lake.
Oh, really?
And
by accident you ran into him?
Just by accident. I hadn't heard from him since he left me in England in December of '44. He finished up before I did. And he walked up beside the car, seen my hat laying on the dash, and introduced himself. He said, "I'm Albert J. Taschuti with the post 305th Bomb Group reunion." Well, I couldn't believe what I was seeing. But there was another reunion right there in the middle of the flat. Old Doc Beamer, the fellow that dug the shrapnel out of my tail end after he got back off of that Swineford mission, and a lot of notaries that was there. So we had a good one, and we made the paper about meeting in the wilds of Utah. And then after that, I found out where my pilot was at. He wrote me a letter, and he asked me, he said, "Fred," he said, "you have any idea what happened to Little Bill?" That was our flight engineer. And I said, "The last I ever heard of him, he was in New Boston, Texas." Well, New Boston, Texas is another country all in itself. And you call down there with the phone, they will not give you a person's phone number or any help at all. Well, as luck would have it, I got a hold of a new listing, which was his boy, and got a hold of Bill and got back with them.
No kidding.
So I got back and seen Bill, and I seen Taschuti, and my bombardier, I didn't get to see him again, and I think a navigator was probably the first one to die after returning to the United States.
Okay. Now, how many years after you'd served with him did you start to reconnect?
Oh, hell, I don't know. You didn't pay no attention to it back then. They were just people that, and then in later years you start, well, what the hell, maybe we ought to get together. So that's actually what set it all off. And anyway, Albert Taschuti's passed away, Tom's gone, the pilot, and I said the navigator, he passed away shortly after getting back home. That would have been in 45, 1945. And then from there, I just kind of roamed around the country a little bit. And I hear stuff that kind of irritates me in a way, still does. And the people up here, it's good to do things now that are being done. And these, as I say, NAM veterans, they say, we got no recognition. Well, it's good they are getting some recognition. But I look back on myself. I was discharged at Davis Martin Air Base. Give me a ticket to into Tucson. My discharge paper and a ticket to Tucson.
Right. Now, which year was this?
45, 1945.
When you were discharged, it was 45. Okay.
1945.
Yeah.
Caught a bus out of Tucson to Phoenix. Caught another bus out of Phoenix, come up through Wickenburg and Yarnell and Prescott and over the mountain, over Drome, and then to Cottonwood, and then into Sedona, which was basically what I called home at that time. I had my B4 bag. I stepped off of the bus in Sedona, picked it up, looked around, went in the cafe, paid for my own coffee, and walked 4.5 miles home. Have a second, look at this paint shut off.
So that was your return home then.
Well, I was glad to be home, yes, but
no ticker tape
to
parade.
what?
Yeah, I
to
understand.
what? My horses were gone. See, I had cattle when I went in the service. My cattle was gone. My horses were gone. There was no jobs around.
Somebody really wants to get a hold of you.
Ron, I'll have to call you back. So, anyway, I messed around, a job here and a job there. And as I said, Sedona, there wasn't anything left in Sedona for a machine gunner out of World War II. So in 22 months and 29 days from the day I went in, I was out.
I see.
And like I said, times were tough. I did, they were used guaranteed work, of course. So I went to the Navajo Army Depot in Flagstaff, where I went to work at 50 cents an hour, $4 a day. And I worked there, and then I went into road construction, I went into mining, I went into timber, and I'm proud to say that I don't think there's a piece of road between Flagstaff and Phoenix I haven't worked on, or Gallup to Boulder Dam. And it's a lot of it over into New Mexico. But in all my travels, and all my tours, and all my experience, I would know there's no place else I'd rather be than right here in the heart of the Verde Valley.
Oh, I would agree with you. Yeah. I'm afraid I have to shut you down there, Mr. Piper.
I have 2 wives buried here, and a lady friend. Since the last session, I have laid her to rest. Now I've did all this myself. I didn't ask for help to dig their graves or preach their sermons. I did it. You can do it. It gets a little wet, but it can be done. So, except for that, I'm coming up on 92 years old on the 24th day of July, which is Mormon Day. And I think I'm going to stick around and torment Cottonwood all I can.
Good, I hope you do. And I hope we can have you back on the program as well. We'll pick up where we left off again.
Okay, we can do that.
All right, well, very good. Thank you so much, Mr. Piper, for being in. It's always a pleasure.
Thank you.
All right. And again, this is Inside Cottonwood. I am your mayor, Tim Elinski. Appreciate you joining us today, and we'll see you again real soon.